Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Environmental Justice Advisory Group meeting. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your phones or other communication devices. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to unmute or mute manually. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make a public comment. I will call the meeting to order and ask the clerk for roll call, please.
Hey, good evening. Ms. Martinez.
Here.
Mr. Graywall.
Here.
Mr. Freitas.
Here.
Ms. Gutiel.
Here.
Ms. Vielma. Mr. Helm. Mr. Williams. Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Sanders.
Here.
Mr. Cunha. Mr. McLaughlin. Through the chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 3 is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which would be from February. Is there any corrections or additions to the minutes from last meeting?
Motion to adopt.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
And that one, through the chair, we don't need motion or second or a vote. You can deem them approved without, since there were no corrections or additions to them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Are there any public comments on the minutes? Public comments?
Sorry, public comments on the minutes. Are there any members of the public in Modesto that would like to comment on the minutes?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any members of the public in
Chair.
Bakersfield?
I think this is for any public comment on issues that are not in the agenda.
First, we have to do the public comment on the minutes because it was an action item. Sorry. Bakersfield, do you have any members of the public that would like to comment on the minutes?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in Fresno that like to comment on the minutes? Seeing none and none online. So as deemed by the chair, the minutes are approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and then now to item 4. This time is made available for comments from the public on matters that are not on this agenda. It is requested that no comments be made during this period on items on the agenda. The public may make comments on each EJAG agenda item during the time allowed for public comments. Attention is called to the fact that the EJAG is prohibited by law from taking any action on discussion of matters that are not on the agenda. Please, clerk.
Do we have any members of the public in Bakersfield that would like to comment at this time?
No comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comments in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any public comments in Fresno? Seeing none and none online.
Okay, thank you. Chair comments. I don't really have any comments other than to say coming home the other day it got very smoky and I was very I was kind of out of touch for a little while, and so then I pulled up my What's Going On in the Valley app and was just like, wow, there was a lot of fires. And so just wanted to say my heart and prayers go up for everybody who was impacted. What do I ask for anybody else? Okay. And we go on to number 6, update on attainment plans and rules.
Okay, first time using the new system. Good evening, everyone, Madam Chair and committee. Thank you for having me. My name is Emily Nealand, and I'm the Director of Air Quality Planning here at the district. I just have a couple quick updates for you guys. There's a number of updates in the packet, but just wanted to touch on the main things. The first of which is related to the 1997 annual PM 2.5 standard. A couple of weeks ago, on May 23rd, the district and CARB submitted an attainment date extension request to EPA to extend the attainment date by 1 year, given that we had record clean air quality in 2023. The extension request demonstrates that the district and CARB satisfied Clean Air Act requirements to request the 1-year extension. And so we've submitted that and it's awaiting EPA action. So that would extend the attainment date from December 31st, 2023 to December 31st, 2024. My next update is related to our 2024 plan for the 2012 annual PM 2.5 standard. At the governing board meeting in June, the governing board adopted the 2024 PM 2.5 plan, which we've submitted to CARB for their action. They'll be taking that to their board in July. The plan includes a number of commitments for new prohibitory rules for conservation management practices for agricultural operations, as well as additional amendments to our fireplace rule. It also includes a couple of incentive-based measures for fireplace and wood stove changeouts through our existing program and low dust nut harvesters, again, through our existing program. In addition to the district strategies, the plan incorporates CARB's 2022 state SIP strategy measures, which includes a number of new measures to further reduce emissions from mobile sources here in the Valley and throughout the state. Through the plan, we are projected to reach attainment of this standard by 2030. And then lastly, again, at the June governing board meeting, the governing board adopted amendments to Rule 2520, federally mandated operating permits, to remove emergency defense provisions from the rule, which is an action that needed to be taken to make the rule consistent with recent EPA actions on federal regulations for permitting programs here in the Valley. So with that, that concludes my updates. I'd be happy to take any questions anyone may have.
Does anyone, any EJAG members have any questions?
What is the SIP plan that will be heard at the CARB board meeting on July 25th? Is that the one that you're referring to that was approved recently?
Yes, yeah. So for all attainment plans, they go through our governing board first, and then they go through CARB. So it's the plan that was just heard for the 2012 standard at our governing board hearing last week. So that'll be going to the CARB governing board in July.
I was just confused because you said it was approved by your board and CARB, and I'm like, but no, CARB is barely gonna hear it on the 25th, correct?
Yes, yeah, I apologize if I misspoke. Yes, it'll be going to their governing board for consideration in July, and then following the tentative adoption at the CARB level, it'll be submitted to EPA.
Thank you for.
Sorry for the confusion.
You talking about Cal EPA or just federal EPA?
Federal EPA, yeah. So EPA Region 9 would be evaluating our plan once we submit it, and then they would take action in their federal register.
Are there any comments or questions from the Modesto office?
No comments or questions in Modesto.
And how about in Bakersfield?
No comment in Bakersfield?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, Emily. Okay, our next agenda item is election of vice chair for 1 year, for a 1-year term. Our current vice chair is Mr. Tom Helm, who is not with us today due to personal matters. I don't know what to do next.
No problem. No, this is Jessica. Hi, everyone. Yes, so Tom Helms, it is a 1-year term for vice chair. His vice chair term was up in April, and this was originally on our agenda in April, but we did not have enough folks to hold a meeting, which is why we ended up moving it to this meeting. Unfortunately, Tom was prepared to be here, had an unexpected loss in the family and was unable to be here. We can open it up and take nominations. I've also spoken with Tom, and one does not need to be present as long as we're aware that he would be willing to accept the nomination. But maybe it's up to the chair how you maybe get a sense from the group if we want to open up nominations and take a vote today, or we can also table this until the August meeting.
So then I asked the group, what do you, here in Fresno, what do you need to say that out?
Table.
Table it?
That way you have Tom here, you have everybody, or maybe a chance of more people being here, so you have some more representation, you know. That way seems like it's a little less.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thoughts in Bakersfield?
How long is the term? I was in the middle of two things. How long is that term?
It is a one-year term.
Nominate me.
And in Modesto,
Through the chair, I believe you'll have to officially open nominations if we'll accept nominations. But yes, someone can self-nominate,
Table it now, or you.
correct?
I echo that we should table it.
Can I speak from
Yes, please.
Modesto? You
Yes,
asked
please.
me what I thought. Well, first off, don't table it, because if you table it, it's gone. You have to continue it. And that's what I would recommend, continuing it to August. Tabling it is, you're not going to take action on it for a year.
thank you, Richard. That is a good point.
Yeah, so then I modify my comment, not table it, but continue it to August.
My position to continue also.
Continue also. Okay. So based on just a few comments, I believe the best course of action at this point in time is to continue this to our August meeting. And in the hopes that Tom will be able to attend and we can officially open up the nominations to everyone. Thank you. So then our next agenda item is our end of season residential wood smoke reduction report.
All right, good evening. I'm John Klassen. I'm the Director of Air Quality Science, and I'm joined by Jamie Holt, Chief Communications Officer. We're going to give you an update, an overview of this last winter residential wood smoke reduction strategy that occurred from November of 2023 through February of 2024. So just a little bit of background here. Of course, wood smoke has an impact on health. As people breathe in smoke particles that can get deep into the lungs, into the bloodstream, cause a number of issues, lung disease, decrease in lung function, hypertension, different neurological effects. Residential wood burning happens right in neighborhoods where people are living. During the evening time, there could be temperature inversions that compress those emissions down near the surface where people are breathing in the neighborhoods. And so that magnifies people's exposure to that type of emission in the neighborhood. Our wood burning program, the program we put together, is one of our most cost-effective programs. It gets a lot of reductions of PM 2.5 right in neighborhoods where people are living, right where it's needed most. Continuing to develop this program over the decades has led to us helping to attain a number of air quality standards, from the PM10 standard many years ago. Recently, the 65 microgram 24-hour standard. We're making progress toward that 15 microgram standard. That's the 1997 annual standard. In fact, the entire valley was below that level last year, which was great to see. And this has also been a very good year, the start to 2024. And we're making progress towards attaining the other PM 2.5 standards. Just a few notes here on some of the milestones that we hit during this last winter season. We saw a record low average of PM 2.5 across the valley's counties, 0 days exceeding that 65 microgram standard. This is the 5th winter season in a row that we have seen that, which is great that we're not having those very high numbers. A record low of valley exceedances over the 24-hour standard of 35 micrograms, 0 exceedances of the 24-hour standard, that 35 microgram standard during the months of January and February, which is significant for us because those winter season months are often when we see the higher levels of particulate matter. So having 0 days over that standard for those 2 months was really great to see. Continued increase in good and moderate air quality index days. And then speciation continues to show a reduction in some of those key components. And I'll show a slide on that in just a minute. This was the 5th winter season that we've been operating our hotspot strategy. The image on the left-hand side shows the different curtailment levels for the different counties that we have. The hotspot counties have lower curtailment thresholds, and so they have more wintertime curtailments. That's for the counties of Madera, Fresno, and Kern. This is coupled with public education and our incentive program and a number of other enhancements that came from our recent rule revision in 2019. So there are a lot of numbers here. Just wanted to highlight that bottom row there, that is the number of curtailments per county that we saw during the 23-24 winter season. And you can see all the way on the right-hand side, if you look at the total number of curtailments across all the counties, it was less than what we've seen in past winter seasons. This was a pretty good winter season, good air quality, a pretty good mix between periods of good dispersion versus times of strong atmospheric stability, kind of back and forth. But overall, we saw lower curtailments across the valley compared to other winter seasons where air quality was more difficult to work with. I mentioned the air quality index. These are the colors. Maybe you've seen the green, yellow, orange, different colors for air quality. All the way on the right-hand side, you can see this is the latest winter season. If you compare that against where we used to be on the left-hand side, in the past, we saw a lower number of green and yellow days and a lot more orange and red days. Now going forward in time to the right, those red days are extremely rare. Orange days are becoming less frequent, and the vast majority of the winter season are green or yellow. And those colors represent days where we're meeting the health standard. But we still need to shave off more of those peak days. We see those orange and red days to meet all the air quality standards. So we need to keep making progress here. This was something we looked at this last winter season, which was interesting. We looked at the time of the day when we see peak emissions occurring. So this shows a number of winter seasons and then the evening hours going into the early morning of when we see higher concentrations. And usually once we get to the 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock hour, people start lighting up their fireplaces more, do more burning. If you look at that top line, that's back in the 2002, 2003 winter season. And you can see a much higher signature there of higher concentrations. And you can see that distinct curve there. And then as we get into the morning hours, it starts to drop off a little bit. As we go further in time, you can see that those winter seasons, we see that curve kind of drop down and kind of flatten out a little bit. So we don't see that high peak that we used to see in the evening hours. And overall, that level is coming down as we look at more recent winter seasons. I mentioned the meteorology a little bit, but this last winter season was really a balance between a couple of months of more stable atmosphere in November and December. So that was more conducive to creating higher levels of PM 2.5 and leaving it near the surface. And then January and February were more dispersive, a lot more storms coming through, which helped air quality. So this is really a balance between two different halves of the winter season for weather. And then finally, in the speciation work for PM 2.5, this is where we look at the different components of particulate matter. The two major components during the winter season are ammonium nitrate and organic carbon. And looking at this over time, we continue to see these levels decline as we have continued to ratchet down and strengthen this strategy. The blue part there, that's ammonium nitrate. That's often the highest during the winter season. That's being reduced over time. And then that orange yellowish color, that's organic carbon. Wood burning emissions fall into that category. And so we also see that declining as we've continued to work to reduce wood burning in the valley. At this point, I'll pass it over to Jamie to give some updates on our incentive program and outreach efforts. You could do that now, or we could wait till the end, yeah.
That would be fine with me. Thank you.
I just wanted to know, there different treatment and prescribed burns between the counties in the whole San Joaquin Valley? You know, if, well, first let me ask this. Are there prescribed burns allowed Do they allow prescribed burns
In the valley, in the San Joaquin Valley?
anywhere in the,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
are there, with your studies and you're a scientist, I'm not a scientist, I don't know. But do you see, any correlation between, where the smog and the soot and the smoke, has a tendency to migrate to? Does it have a tendency to migrate south or north?
For the most part, wind flow in the valley goes from the north to the south.
South.
And so often smoke from wildfires or prescribed burn, it can drift southward. A lot of the projects, of course, happen up in the foothills or the mountains, and during the evening hours, it can get drawn down from the higher elevations down towards the surface as the air cools. In the evening, we can often see that happen as well.
So I was wondering if, prescribed burns, are they treated differently in different counties? You treat prescribed burns different in Fresno County than you do in Volusia County?
Well, that's outside of our district,
How about within the district?
yeah, within the district now,
Treatments.
the program is the same across the district's counties. Yeah,
It is?
it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you name sources of ammonium nitrate that you said are more important in the winter months?
The source-
That's the same thing.
You see?
Yes, good question. Ammonium nitrate is driven by a combination of NOx and ammonia. So NOx sources comes from vehicles, burning fuel in different engines, stationary source engines, things like that. Ammonia can come from mobile sources as well. It can come from animal operations, agriculture. And so those two coming together form what's called ammonium nitrate, and that's a big portion of the wintertime of PM 2.5.
I kind of knew a little bit about that, especially the part coming from dairies, for example. So I was like, well, the dairies are there with the animals year round. Why would we see an increase
Right,
in
right.
winter months?
That's right. It's a good question. Those emissions are still there in the summer too. Why is it smaller in the summer, bigger in the winter? It's really a question of like the atmospheric science, and it's really driven by temperature. So in the summer months, if it's too warm, ammonium nitrate will not form, even if the emissions are there to form it, because it's so hot, it won't happen. Once we get into the fall and the winter months, the temperature comes down enough where the formation is now happening and becoming, it can more easily form in the cooler months.
Got it. Thank you. That makes sense. And why is Modesto shown in in the slide 10? It was just any.
We just picked one. Yeah, we have similar trends for the other, some of the other counties, but they all show similar decline.
Thank you.
Well, before we let you off the hot seat, since we started questions with you, I will go to questions, if there are any in Modesto.
No questions in Modesto.
Okay, and then in Bakersfield?
No questions in Bakersfield.
The second half of the presentation, and then we're going to bring John back up here for like a final slide or two, an encore. Key to the success of this program has been our grant arm. That's our wood stove changeout incentive program. It's a program that will fund a variety of incentive amounts depending on what individuals are doing and where they live. We have a variety of options. Primarily what we see is folks who have a wood burning device go to a gas device. There are a few instances where you can go from an older wood burning device to an EPA certified wood device, but that's in areas where there's no access to natural gas. And that's usually our mountain communities. We also knew this year, knew about 2 years ago, we've increased the incentive to go from a wood burning device to an electric heat pump. We're actually seeing that grow significantly. So you may have seen our commercials this past year. We have one specifically that's about folks going from a wood burning device. Basically, they put a topper on their chimney and then they're getting an electric heat pump, which is actually incredibly energy efficient and lower cost for heating their home. The program has been incredibly successful. You can see on the slide just some of the trends we've had over the last few years. Specifically in this last winter season, that's 2023-24, we had 1,400 vouchers issued for about $5.5 million. We also see that we work with retail partners. So you have to go through one of our about 40 some odd retail partners to do this, take advantage of the grant program. And what we see is our retail partners really like to promote the program year round. They can get you your device faster if you're not in their busy season, which is during the winter. Through the retail partners, we also have a low income component. Some of our retailers, actually the majority of our retailers are do the low income component, and that's a point of sale discount. For most folks, it's a rebate. You pay up front, we'll give you the rebate money. It's a check that comes directly to you. But for our low income folks, we do have a point of sale discount for those folks that maybe can't afford that out of pocket cost. Generally speaking, you can get about just over $4,000 for that swap out, depending on where you live. Variety of different kind of ways that works and how much money you'll have. We do a lot of outreach during the winter for our wood stove changeout program and just our general wood stove reduction strategy. Some of you might remember we used to call this the check before you burn program. We don't do that anymore. We actually don't want people to check before they burn. We really just want people to not burn. We did some research a few years ago, and part of it was to begin to really educate folks on things they can do to reduce emissions, and that the person they're impacting the most is probably someone in their family. That smoke is basically going up the chimney and then coming right back into your house, or it's smoking out your neighbors. So we've really changed our messaging quite a bit to emphasize the health impact, to get people to understand that really we don't want them burning at all, and to take advantage of the wood stove changeout program. We do a whole variety of outreach. This year, as I mentioned, we had two primary ads that we're running, although we do have a few others. We run the one about the wood stove changeout that is going from like a wood to a gas device, the wood stove changeout that's going from wood to electric. We have one that talks specifically about outdoor fire pits. Folks don't realize that those fire pits fall under this rule, and you will get a ticket if you're using your fire pit and we see smoke coming out of your backyard in the winter on a day when you're not allowed to do it. We use social media, network and cable TV, outdoor billboards, digital advertising. This includes on-demand streaming services such as Hulu, or Pluto is one, or Samsung TV, search engine marketing. We have a smartphone application, our Valley Air app, that will give you the curtailment level for your county on any given day. And then we do a variety of different press releases and other public relations outreach to make sure that our Valley meteorologists, weather reporters are aware of the program and really talking about it during the winter. These are just some stats. We still have quite a few people that call our 1-800 number, which is in English and Spanish. Over 34,000 inquiries this year. We had over 260,000 visits to our wood smoke reduction webpage and nearly 300 public complaints. All of our advertising was over 53 million impressions. Think about that as sets of eyeballs seeing our messaging. These are just some examples of our advertising, some of our Spanish outreach, some of our digital billboards, some of our Facebook posts, and then that's one of our commercials. Part of our Believe It campaign, or I can't pronounce it in Spanish, but it's like Cria something campaign. I forget, but Believe It basically means that we want, great, there you go. Basically, we heard back that folks weren't, when our grant programs, they were like, I don't really believe I can get money for this, whatever. So we've done a whole series of commercials about a variety of our grant programs to get people to understand, no, you can really get money for these variety of things, not just wood burning. Key to this too, so we have kind of the regulatory side, we have the grant side, and then we have the enforcement side. So we send staff out. This is also on evenings and weekends. They both do proactive monitoring in our older neighborhoods. These are neighborhoods where we are most likely to see homes with wood burning devices. In most urban areas, wood burning devices are no longer put in newer homes and haven't been for about 20 years. So going out to our older neighborhoods proactively and then also responding to complaints. About 3,500 staff hours. We issued 470 notices of violation this past season. You get a $100 ticket. Basically, you can cut that ticket in half if you attend our very exciting district smoke school. And we do take people to small claims court. So people can't just ignore it. We have a whole team that works to make sure that people are paying their penalties. We do have higher penalties for repeat offenders. So it just starts at $100. People have had bills in the thousands if they are really just saying 100%, I do not abide by your rules. We also utilize a variety of technology so that we're not going and knocking on doors. We're not even getting onto property. We actually use this technology so that even in the dark, we can see whether or not there's smoke coming out of your chimney or out of your backyard. I will say in the 20 some odd years that we've had some version of this program in place, we used to really get a lot of folks who would call us and be very upset about this program. That's still kind of the case, but now it's more along the lines of my neighbors using their fireplace. I can't breathe. I smell smoke in my neighborhood. Why are people using their fireplace? So I think there's been a huge educational effort that's been successful in getting folks to understand that the wood burning they're doing, especially in our urban areas where most of it's just for ambiance, really doesn't need to happen. And folks are on board, and many of them, maybe they get one ticket and then all of a sudden they're going through our grant program to replace their device. And we've worked with a lot of low income folks and really made it be something that they can access fairly easily. Looking ahead, we are hoping to go out with a public opinion survey this next winter to kind of see again, kind of if those opinions on this program are moving again. We work closely with community organizations to provide education regarding this program. We are really beginning to look more critically at some of the electrification issues in light of new federal funding. Do we need to even have more money for heat pumps and the like, especially for some of our low income folks who maybe they would get a heat pump, but maybe their electric panel isn't big enough, or maybe there's other issues in the home that we need to address. We're also looking at some new research regarding wood burning in the valley and their contribution to our overall PM 2.5 levels. And then this is a part of our PM 2.5 plan. And there are some new measures that we'll be looking at that have been kind of rolled into that plan. So this is always something that's on the table that we're always looking at. Oh, and this is back to John. You want to go over this? You want me to go over it? Oh, we'll take some questions on that. And then totally off agenda, we sent out an air alert today. So we thought we'd just take a moment to tell you about the wildfires that are burning.
So I do have one question for you. Is there a maximum fine that someone can get? So it's just,
Well, I think,
starts at $100 and then just
Right.
racks up.
and usually the first 3 steps are usually $100, which you can get cut in half. You can then jump to $300 and then it jumps to $1,000. So it gets up there pretty quickly. Our goal, especially with those first time violators, to get them educated and to see if there is a way to get them in the grant program.
It's great. So I'll call for questions here in Fresno.
Thank you, Jamie. So my question is, are you linking the enforcement with the incentive part in a more like intentional way? And I'll give the example. So it was, I believe, January 1st of a couple of years back, and I went running. It was 1 p.m. Okay. So it was not cold at all. And I smell it and then I saw it. It was a fireplace. I called it in and then they told me, oh, well, that person has, they saw the propane gas in the property. So they say, well, they're excused. I'm like, I think that was an opportunity for education about, hey, but instead of burning, you can actually go and apply for an incentive. So I think those, just curious if that has been the case in linking the two, like if your inspector knows and maybe doesn't go, but actually tells your outreach team to send something.
So anytime, that case would have maybe been a little odd, but when you do get an NOV, you get information about our grant program. When you go to the smoke school, you get information about the grant program. Where it becomes a little tricky is if we're not reaching out directly because of one of those reasons. But I do think that's perhaps an opportunity where.
That's what I'm saying, because it's not a violation, but still it's an
Right.
educational opportunity of someone that it's verified that is using their fireplace.
Yeah. So even those complaints that
area.
come in that are maybe not truly complaints, we can still maybe follow up with some type of materials. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just a question about the research of the apportionment that was mentioned in your last slide. Who will be doing that?
We're looking at that right now. We don't know. So we'll go out to RFP and we're looking at some different research models that we might use to be able to look into that a little bit more. And I know the team's looking just generally on what research is out there in this kind of source category to begin with, because for all we know, Northern California or Seattle area or Wyoming may be doing some research that we can build upon. Oh yeah, then you can.
And just the rule 4901, is that the wood?
Mhm.
thing?
Yeah, that's the number. Every one of, just for, I think you know this, but not everyone. Every one of our rules is assigned a number. So when you see like rule, 1, 2, 3, 4, it is a specific rule to the district, and there's usually some type of really cumbersome name attached to it. And then we usually make it a little more palatable for the public. Like this one, I think it's wood stove and heater or something that's very cumbersome.
And my last question, I promise. Why can, I have said this so many times, but I'll repeat it one more time. Can the curtailment period start on Halloween Day? I get so upset. At least in my neighborhood, everybody is with their fire pits. Now that you're mentioning that those apply too, they contaminate, and they're happily burning and sitting and passing out candies. And I'm like, just because it's one day before the curtailment.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Go ahead, Keith.
Oh, so maybe I misunderstood. You're not talking about like getting rid of ma and pa's or grill masters, right?
No, these are not barbecue grills. These are in-home open hearth fireplaces, wood burning inserts, and wood burning stoves.
And to do with barbecuing.
Correct.
So if somebody's barbecuing in their backyard, they're not gonna fly over them and drop.
Correct.
Okay, I just was confused about that. And the other one is on that key pump, you said, what's that key?
Electric heat pump.
Oh, heat.
Yes.
I'm sorry, heat.
Yep.
So an electric heat pump. So where do we go to find out more information about that?
We do have some information on our website about the program. If you go to our wood stove, fireplace and wood stove change out program. And then you just might want to Google heat pumps, and then you'll learn a little bit about how it's basically a different way to heat and cool your home. That works off of electricity and can be very efficient.
It's not working off of fire.
Not working
I
off of
missed it.
fire and not working off of gas.
Okay,
Working off
okay,
electricity
okay.
coming into your home.
And so I'll call for questions in Bakersfield. No questions in Bakersfield. Okay, and then in Modesto.
No questions in Modesto.
Okay, thanks.
I'll let John go through the last little bit, and he cannot, when Naimeen comes back, you can talk about.
Okay, yeah, just a few other updates here, not related to winter season program or anything, but wildfires. It was mentioned earlier in the meeting. There's been wildfire activity already this year, so just wanted to give you a quick update on what we are seeing. So this chart on the right-hand side shows the year-to-date number of acres burned through wildfire so far across the state. Red is this year, blue is last year, year-to-date, and then the green is the 5-year average, year-to-date. So clearly, we're off to a really quick start this year, unfortunately. Hopefully, the trend doesn't continue and we can kind of slow down, but there's been some big fires already this year. A lot of grass fires across California, a lot of grass fires in the valley that have occurred. We mentioned one big one here, the Corral Fire in San Joaquin County, over 14,000 acres in early June occurred. That sent a lot of smoke down the valley. Just recently, we had some cloudy conditions you probably noticed a few days ago. A lightning storm came over the valley and the mountains. A lot of lightning strikes occurred up there. A lot of new fire starts have happened because of that. And so two big ones that we're watching, the Fresno June Lightning Complex and the Basin Fire up in Fresno County, are pretty active and producing a lot of smoke right now. This is an image from earlier this morning. You can see all the smoke from the Basin Fire up in the mountains there and drifting over parts of the valley. And we've seen some elevated PM 2.5 in the area as well. Right now, this fire is about 2,600 acres. It's growing rapidly, so it's probably already higher than this as compared to the point we put this together. I mentioned some of the impacts up there. You can see on the Air Now fire and smoke map on the left-hand side, some elevated numbers, some yellow, orange, and red areas. So higher concentrations are being experienced up there. And the Weather Service put out this product on the right-hand side showing a smoke forecast, similar high concentrations expected over the next few days. The Fresno June Lightning Complex is another one. You can see on the map on the left-hand side, that's a little bit lower elevation compared to the Basin Fire. Over 9,000 acres as of the point we put this together, producing a lot of smoke. You can visibly see a lot of this happening when you look towards the mountains. So we are watching this closely. This shows some of the air quality impacts so far. This is up near the Three Rivers area, this air monitoring station. And you can see what happened last night into early this morning, some very high concentrations into that red category. So really high numbers, well above the federal standards for PM 2.5. So we'll continue to watch this and inform the public as we see things changing. And so today we put out a press release about this. We issued an air quality alert with the Weather Service that'll run through the weekend. We will continue to update the public through social media as things change. Hopefully these fires don't get too much larger and they can get controlled pretty quick, but we'll be watching this pretty close. And that's it for the quick update on fires. And just real quick, I mean, since you're back on the speciation question, the contribution of wood burning to PM 2.5. So there is a current project going on that CARB is heading up, where they have a researcher working with them to do real-time PM 2.5 speciation. So not something that's just represents a whole day, but hour by hour, we can see the breakdown of PM 2.5, which is really helpful because then we can see in the evening during the wintertime, when we see those higher numbers, what is driving that? Is it wood burning? Is it something else? That's going to be really telling. And they have this running in Fresno and Bakersfield. So I think once we get some results from that and we learn from that, it'd be really great to bring that back to the group here and we can see what that looked like. So I'm excited that that's happening.
Are there any other questions for John? Go ahead, Keith.
Hey, John, when you put out that public, I mean, you know, people know there's a fire, right? So that public alert notice, what is there more of a purpose to that than just basically telling people, hey, there's smoke in the air?
It is helpful, the air quality alert that we send to the Weather Service. So if you look on a weather app, you look on the National Weather Service website, you listen to the radio, and the Weather Service provides information on all these alerts they put out there. That comes from us, the air quality alert, and it gets out to a much broader audience when we do that. So you can pull it up on your phone. If you have like an Alexa speaker at home, it'll tell you when there's air quality alerts or different things that come up. So we can reach a much broader audience by using that tool.
And it supplies people with information that goes beyond just letting them know it's smoky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tells them
where it's
there,
happening,
go here. So
what you can do to protect yourself.
There's a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
A lot of information.
Okay. And the next question is on because I'm not a scientist, but I'm just wondering on the when you measure, I think you call it, we say here the something M3
Micrograms per
yeah, the
meter cubed.
microgram.
Yes.
When you're measuring a microgram, are you saying that 150 microgram M3 is what PM10 represents scientifically wise?
So that 150 represents the EPA's standard for PM10, their health standard.
Okay.
So your value should be below that level to meet the health standard.
Yeah, but I mean, is that calculation there, though, that figure is equal to PM10.
So if you're PM10 is any particle less than 10 microns in diameter.
Okay,
So that number there represents the density of those emissions.
that represents density.
Density, yes.
That's
So if
density.
your density is more than that, then you're violating the standard. If it's less than that, then you're attaining it.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, are there any questions in Modesto?
No other questions in Modesto.
Okay, and any questions from Bakersfield, EJAC members? Okay, not seeing any. Oh, no, you mean, I'm sorry.
Sorry, one more. So now it kind of occurred to me that I received the run alerts. So I have been receiving the ones for ozone because the heat is what has been, out of control in the past few weeks. So now that we have that combo of PM, normally is the PM is in the winter, ozone is in the summer, and only when we have experienced wildfires, we have the two high. Is that indicated in some of the alerts? Do the recommendations of what you are supposed to do change in any way, or it's as bad as having one high and the other one too?
I mean, it is kind of a double whammy, having both high ozone and high PM 2.5. So I think it definitely has more of a bigger impact on your health. You're breathing in both high ozone and high PM 2.5. But the RAN system, sends out alerts for both ozone or PM 2.5. I think the recommendations are still similar. When the values are high, try to stay in a filtered environment, get out of the environment as much as you can, protect yourself. For the summer, for the ozone season, the numbers drop off in the evening once the sun goes down. So you can kind of control when you can avoid high ozone by doing things in the evening or first thing in the morning. PM 2.5 can be high all day long if there's heavy smoke impacts. So in those conditions, you really shouldn't be outside at all if you're able to. With high ozone, you can try to avoid it by having your activities different parts of the day.
I was just asking because maybe that's something that should be added in an alert, and maybe it's not for the entire valley, but for the areas that are more impacted, like, you mentioned Three Rivers, or maybe in Tulare County, they need to know that the two contaminants might be very high for that day or when the sun is out, right? And that,
Right.
If they're, right now we're in summer, a lot of kids are doing after school or summer programs. They're spending a lot of time outdoors. So just as a precaution.
Real quick, if you don't mind, through Chair, just wanted to make a comment, John, that we got really lucky on that lightning complex fire because the wind was really cooperating, being half a mile from it. And I can't decide when or when not to go outside. When I have to irrigate, I have to go outside, period. So it's kind of like I'm in it, right? And I really can see the difference, feel the difference in my lungs and my throat. And
Right.
yeah, and it is bad, but we got lucky because the air mainly stayed south and almost east a little bit.
Right.
Hugged that-
Right. And wind direction can shift over time, and then unfortunately you can draw it back a different direction. So sometimes you get lucky and the wind is pushing it away from you. Other times you could be unlucky and it's pulling it all towards a populated area. Yeah.
Thank you
Through
both
the
for those
chair.
updates. Oh, yes.
Through the chair, I have a quick question on the ozone, not a question, comment. There are certain activities that can increase the ozone contaminants, like transferring fuels, using small engines, stuff like that. Why don't we restrict those during high ozone? We can restrict, wood burning at certain times. Why can't we restrict gas-powered lawn equipment?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's something we can think about. The rules we have in place for the equipment that operates that's permitted, those rules are already very stringent. We have to be that stringent to meet all the federal standards for planning. So our rules are already extremely stringent, but could more be done? I mean, we always try to encourage people during episodes like that to do whatever they can do to carpool, not use certain products that can put off VOCs or produce even more pollution out there that's going to cause a bigger problem for ozone. So we try to do those sorts of things, but you're right. Whatever we can do to get the word out, to get people to change their activities to reduce those emissions on those peak days is really helpful.
Okay, thank you both for your update. That appreciate your time. And then I guess really timely is an update on our Valley-wide Clean Air Rooms program.
Thank more. We need as many as we can get. So hello, everyone. It's Jessica again. Yes, so timely, and I'm just so grateful that we were able to add those few slides in there at the end. It is unfortunate that, you know, sometimes we're lucky and wildfire season never really takes off, or usually it's toward the end of the year. So unfortunately it's early, but fortunately we're prepared. And I think that's what you'll see here in the slides today. This was actually intended to be an update, of course, at our last meeting. So this is just a little bit more of an update, and I think a lot of great progress that we can share. So I'll just go back and just remind folks, really based on what John and Jamie just described, we encourage the public to use air filtration devices as one of the many things we do when we talk about wildfire smoke impacts. We want folks to create what we call clean air rooms. And that's really to ensure safe indoor air quality to protect their health, because even though they might be indoors, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're breathing healthy air, depending on where they live or the type of cooling device that they use in their homes. We know that providing a clean space with an air filtration device can just make the air that much cleaner for them. We have had several successful efforts. We've certainly talked to this group about them, but I know, of course, we have at least one new member on the committee that we can just kind of run down what we've done really over the past couple of years to really expand the reach that we have with this funding. So we launched a pilot program in June of 2022. That was only for $250,000 and really got a handful of devices out into the Valley. But since then, through direction from the board, through direction and really support from you all on the EJAG, we have been committed to finding additional funding. We've added funding through AB 617 to 3 of our communities, but we've also launched full Valley-wide programs with significant funding since April of last year. Actually, April of last year, we added $1 million. It was gone so quickly. We went immediately back to the board and asked for another $1 million, which also went very quickly. In November, we received an EPA EJ grant, which got us some extra funding for Valley-wide programs. And all of this so far to date has allowed us to get over 18,000 air filtration devices to disadvantaged and low-income community households. But as I already heard, people have already said that is not enough and we need so much more. So we want to continue funding Clean Air Rooms Valley-wide. And one of the ways that we've been able to take the support and direction from our board and from you all on EJAG is to look for unique ways to find funding. So we got that EPA grant. We also worked with the California Air Resources Board. They have something called Supplemental Environmental Projects, or SEPs, which allows community-based projects to be funded from a portion of penalties that the California Air Resources Board would otherwise receive during settlement of enforcement cases. And so because SEPs are supposed to be used to protect public health in under-resourced communities, we felt like this was a perfect match. So with the direction of the board, we were actually successful in receiving up to $2 million in SEP funding from CARB. And the way that works is that once we're kind of approved to get that $2 million, as settlements come in, we get that funding directly to this program. So you'll see in a slide here in a moment, we don't have all of that funding in-house, but we'll continue to get up to that $2 million of funding. And we've able to fully relaunch the program, and it's now currently open. Yes, so we're very, very excited. I'm going to briefly remind folks what the program is, since we do have a new member and it's been a minute since we've talked about it. So the folks that are eligible to participate are residents within the district boundaries residing within identified disadvantaged and low-income communities. And that's defined by the state's Cal EnviroScreen tool. We also heard feedback from you all and from the board that doesn't necessarily cover everyone that might be that might need it. There are low-income folks that might not necessarily reside within those boundaries. Certainly, that was impacting some folks maybe in the foothill communities and the way that census tracts are defined. We're unable to take advantage of the program, and so with that, we also have allowed qualifying low-income residents to also participate in the program, whether or not they live in that disadvantaged community boundary. We asked, of course, that folks provide qualifying documentation, and we made the process streamlined. A lot of different types of documentation are accepted, and we've tried to work really closely with community-based organizations and residents to help them along in the process. The way that the funding is distributed is currently we've allocated available funding to each county proportionally based on the population, and from there it's first come, first served. But then, of course, depending on program demand, maybe some counties are just in more demand than others. And we saw that a little bit last year. And kind of using our discretion and communicating with EJAG and with our board might shift from counties to county if there's insufficient demand in one and way oversupply in another. We are not at that point yet. We have a lot of funding and continued funding coming in, but just something that to keep in mind. Eligible filters, eligible participants get directly shipped to their home, or in some cases, certainly over the past year, directly handed to them at an event. One free CARB certified HEPA, so that's a high efficiency particulate air filtration device, and one additional filter for free. The way that we've done it is we actually went out on a competitive solicitation to partner with a device manufacturer, and we purchase in bulk air filtration devices that then just get distributed immediately directly to participants. We have a process and a portal where we have folks sign up. And again, like I mentioned, we walk folks through the portal. The portal is available in Spanish. And it's, rather simple enough to use like on one's phone. We've also taken iPads to a lot of community events where we've signed folks up ourselves and worked with partners to help get folks signed up. We do have devices that come in various makes and models. And there are, ways to make sure that we or not ways, but rather each different type of make and model maybe filters a different like size room. But everything that we've been sending out to folks is really for like a moderate size, maybe like a living room or one big space. Yeah, maybe about as big as each of the rooms we're all in right now, where folks can really gather. It really is just one device. It's not going to filter the whole home, but it's really for a space for like the family to sit in and provide clean air while they're all together. CARB maintains a list. This is kind of important and interesting. There's actually a list that CARB maintains of these types of devices because there are certain air filtration devices that while they might be useful, they actually can create an ozone issue within the home, the way that they filter. So CARB, it's interesting. So CARB makes sure that, hey, here's the list of the ones that are just filtering air filter, the way the mechanism that they use is just for particulate filtration. And the district made sure that, of course, we follow those specifications and the device that we send out to people is not creating another issue within their home. This is a picture of the device and the filter. It's pretty simple to like take off the top and replace the filter when needed. I just wanted to give you some numbers. The relaunch of the Valley-wide program. So far, we've relaunched it just about a month ago. We have 1,400 devices that have been distributed. Right now with the funding, I mentioned that we kind of periodically get funding in-house, and this includes our EPA funding. Right now with the funding that we have in-house, we have almost 8,000 funding for about 8,000 units remaining, but we are still expecting about $1 million more from that CARB as those violations get settled and we continue to receive funding. So there's a lot more funding out there, and there's a lot more available. So the question I'm assuming, that we all have is, well, how do we let folks know about it? How are we making sure that it's really reaching the folks in need the most? And so that's something we thought about. We've now done this on various different iterations the past few years. And so what we've really been doing is going and really kind of making it catered to working with our community-based organizations, making sure they're very aware that the program is open and that we're looking really to them to make sure that the folks that they know need it the most are kind of the ones that come to the table quicker, because we've had so many successive iterations where we run out of funding. We've also participated in dozens, if not over 100 maybe at this point since January, of outreach events through the Valley where we've brought air filtration devices to folks and we've handed them out. It's a lot. It's a very big process, but we were really, really excited about it because more folks were eager. To Jamie's point, they believed that they were getting an air filtration device because they saw it and they were handed it to them. It is a little bit different. I checked in with the team just before this meeting. Right now, the way we're doing it, which is really the way that the program is designed to operate, is when folks sign up, it's about 4 to 5 weeks now, right, as of right now, as a wait time. So we try to get folks to sign up as early as possible. Obviously, we're in smoke season right now, so we're trying to get folks signed up ASAP. I will have Katrina after this send out to all of you the announcement, the link on our website to the portal, the flyers, so that you can all continue to work with us on finding residents to connect with, meetings that we would love to attend, whether it's the community air grant organization partners, any sort of conference or meeting that you all might have. We would love to make sure we're there with, you can see this is one of my team members with an iPad in speaking Spanish, signing someone up and making sure that they're signed up and get their free air filtration device. So with that, that ends my update on this particular program, but I would love to take questions.
My first question for you is, and it may be the only one, is you mentioned the portal and that it's in English and Spanish. Are there any other languages available?
A great question. We do have flyers available, I believe in Hmong and perhaps Punjabi. Right now, I believe the portal is just in English and Spanish. But we have always also been available to have folks call and we can walk them through it. And of course, as we continue to identify a need, we can continue to make sure that we have other languages available. Our website is actually fine-tuned to be able to, like the website overall, to be use Google Translate to translate into a variety of different languages. Hmong is one of the options on there. Punjabi is one of them, in addition to English and Spanish. The portals are a little bit different programming. So that's sort of why it operates that way.
Okay, thank you.
I was looking for the link to give to some residents in Tulare that I was meeting with Tuesday. And I was surprised because I was accustomed to see like little icons on the landing page that I was
Very
like,
first page.
just clear, it's not there.
Yes.
So right now, it took me like 5 clicks
Okay.
to get, and just because I'm like, I know it's here, it's somewhere, and I found it, but I encourage that icon is brought back to the landing page because it's making it more difficult. So I end up just going to the link and copying the link that goes to the portal and sending it to them. But if that's going to be an obstacle, I recommend that be considered. And the other question I have is I sent an email asking for a meeting. There's people waiting to go and receive their device because they're in Tulare, and as we know and we heard, there's more smoke over there affecting them. So perhaps right now maybe targeted more outreach in communities that are right now currently exposed or affected by the smoke. But then you're saying that it's not possible for them to get the device there. They will have to get it in the mail.
Yes, and thank you. I put it on our calendars. We are attending, and I made a little sticky note that I've lost now. We are committed to attending that meeting, and really anyone else who wants to invite us to community meetings, we would love to attend. We are not doing that. It just was sort of not very efficient. Oftentimes, I mean, it's hard to predict, but oftentimes we would bring like 100 devices out and maybe only 30 people would be there, and staff time and the ability to make sure that we were more focused on like signing as many people up as possible. Sometimes the opposite would happen and we'd bring a bunch of devices and then like the 31st person didn't get one. Not to say that we couldn't sign them up. We are committed to being there, signing people up. But of course, we don't want to wait to sign them up. So that's something that we want to talk about, because I also don't want to wait until the end of the month to get folks through the program because it's a few weeks. So maybe that's something we can continue to talk about, but we should still come in case anyone, hears about it just there.
Go ahead, Keith.
So we got to be careful with the fine-based model, right? So, because if everybody goes into compliance, we have no more money coming in. Packing houses are using this ozone now in the packing houses for the entire packing house. They just blow ozone in. The people are working in there. Yeah, ozone, because it keeps the bacteria down. It keeps all so I'm wondering if you have anybody that actually can you guys gain access or entry to packing houses to see what they're filling the place with?
This is Jessica. I can say that actually this is unique that we are doing this program. CARB is actually the one who monitors and has like jurisdiction over indoor air quality issues. And so that's an interesting question I can certainly call and bring up. I'm definitely curious about that. That's not something we deal with ambient, right? Outdoor air quality. The impact on the residents is really why we got into this space and trying to provide air filtration devices. But that is interesting. And I can note that down and ask the question for CARB.
Because most of the workers, low income people in there, they're being forced to breathe this ozone inside these packing houses. So I'm just curious, what was the ozone issues? You said that they could create ozone issues.
Mm.
Could you elaborate a little bit on what ozone
there-
issue is?
There are certain air filtration units that exist out there. Maybe this is just a PSA for everyone. I'll just back up a couple things. They are ionizers and they can create ozone in the way that they try to eliminate air pollution issues. Because of that, CARB created this list to make sure that any filtration device uses a technology that doesn't create other separate issues. And because of that, on our website that Naimeen just referenced about where you can find out about clean air rooms and taking advantage of the incentive, we also have a variety of other links on how to create your own clean air room device, what other types of air filtration, say you got a device, but you want more for other rooms in your home. And we include a link to those certified devices so folks know that that's where they should, that's the list of really hundreds of different devices that are certified and are appropriate.
But it explains, is there any place we can go to that explains the science about ionizers creating an ozone issue?
And I'm not on our website. On our website, we just say, hey, these are the filters that you should
Right.
be using. I think it's just a maybe through that CARB certification process or through that CARB website, you can probably go on that link. There's probably an explanation there. To be honest, we just looked it up on, the internet, ionization issues with filtration. Thank you.
Are there any questions in Modesto, Richard?
No questions in Modesto.
And then in Bakersfield?
Yeah, I got a quick question. You said there was flyers. Is that something we can pick up at our respective offices? And concerning the different languages, is that something we need to specify before we distribute those out?
This is Jessica. Yeah, sorry, I'm so used to we have translation at almost every meeting I chair. And so I always announce my name just so that the interpreter anyhow. So yes, it's me. You can see me on the screen. We can, if you want flyers, we can certainly print them and have them available in that office for you to pick up. And either right now or in a follow-up email with Katrina, we can see if you or anyone else on the committee is interested in more than just English or Spanish language that we can provide. And we can even have that discussion as to the number of flyers you'd like us to hand you. And we would love that.
And then the second question is, I don't know if the Valley Board considers using QR codes on their flyers. They could probably bridge the gap between piquing somebody's interest and having them actually sign up. Because then they may not even go online. It could be a chore, but if they have their phone, they could possibly sign up right there.
You are right. And we did our QR code is the main vision on the flyer. I wish I should have had it with me. That's my bad. The flyer is about half sheet, has a big QR code in the middle, as well as a link or a URL for folks that maybe QR codes don't make quite, as much sense. And if someone could click, if there was a digital version of the flyer that someone received, the digital version we will also send you, they can physically click the flyer. So there's a variety of ways, but that's a really good point. And yes, we do have QR codes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we will go on to agenda item number 10, AB 617 and community engagement update.
Me again. I am going to, it's been a minute. I'm just going to take a little brief moment to kind of explain 617. We just have a couple of quick updates there and definitely a big update on some great community engagement work we've been able to do with our partners recently. So as a reminder, AB 617, that's an assembly bill that was passed in 2018. And it requires that CARB each year go through a process to select communities for focused funding and resources through the Community Air Protection Program. In the very first year of this program, 10 communities were selected throughout the state. 2 of those communities were here in the Valley, that's Fresno and Shafter. The second year of the program, Stockton was selected, and then the most recent year that we've had a selection was Arvin Lamont in year 3. Each one of them, even though it can be either or each one of them in our case was a CERP, which is a community emissions reduction program, and a CAMP, which is a community air monitoring program. Each one of these 4 communities, we have done both of those things in coordination with what we call community steering committees in each of these 4 groups. The community steering committees, we call them CSCs, are comprised of primarily community residents, also local community-based organizations, local businesses, local and even state agencies and other stakeholders and partners that help us develop all of the things that I just mentioned, the air monitoring plan, the emissions reduction programs. And each one of them, these emissions reduction programs, you can see here on this slide, not only are approved by our board, but they are also approved or need to be approved by CARB's board. So you can just see the timeline here on these slides. And it's been, you could see on these timelines, it's 2024. It's been a long time that we've been working with these groups. Each one of them has measures that are incentives-based measures, regulatory measures, outreach measures, compliance measures, a variety of different things that sort of go above and beyond the work that like Emily described that are, you know, regulatory, are kind of our district-wide things. And each one of them has, you can see they're unique to the community. They're different measures in each one. They have different, you know, sort of reductions targets in each one. And this is just really a lot of the work that we've been doing with community groups is to achieve all of the reductions that we hope to set out to achieve here and then monitor progress. I have a few things that I'll just update you on. Usually each time I'll just say, but you know, definitely open to feedback. I'm just going to try to update you all on some really big efforts we've made to move a lot of these measures forward. We're in a really great space right now where we're, you know, I'll say the word finally, it's been a lot of work, but we're really sort of like over the hump of getting a lot of measures worked out. And when I say measures, I mean things like here on the left, we replaced just in the past few weeks, and it was like 107 outside, I think on the picture that I'm showing you, we replaced 340 old gas lawnmowers with new electric lawnmowers for free for residents in the Stockton and Arvin Lamont AB 617 communities. This is an event where we go out. Not only do we get a chance to do this work and get folks into new electric lawn equipment, but also we hand out QR codes for the Clean Air Rooms flyer. We hand out information on how to replace, you know, vehicle for low-income residents or get their vehicle smog checked and repaired. So it really also serves as an outreach component. And we partner with community-based organizations to be out there with us and do some outreach and just support for the team. The one here in the center, in all 4 of our communities, we kicked off our passenger vehicle repair and replace programs. That's if you've heard of like Tune In, Tune Up. We've talked about that a lot at this group. Drive Clean San Joaquin. You might have also heard it called, that's sort of the comprehensive name for the measure. But this is where we replace or allow folks to get funding to replace their old dirty vehicle with a new or used electric or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. This was also very recently. All of these are in the past like month and a half. And then you can see here on the right, in partnership with Tree Fresno and also CCEJN and Nayamin's team, we have been planting a lot of trees in Fresno, and we've also done it in Shafter in partnership with the Tree Foundation of Kern. But we've been attending tree planting events, engaging youth in these tree planting events. This in particular was at Computech on a beautiful Saturday morning a few weeks ago, where we were able to get folks, again, not only, you know, thinking about their community, engaging in this process, pushing the measure forward, but then also doing outreach about all of the other types of programs. So it really is serving so many different things. A couple of other things we've done. We don't just on our team just do 617. We also have been trying to use the lessons learned and the relationships we've built through 617 to do a variety of other community engagement efforts. That can be anything from attending an event that I've already said, please, please, please invite us to your meetings and events and let us give you flyers to pass out. But we also hosted our own event. You might have seen, I think a few months ago, I know that Katrina sent out an email to you all to talk about our inaugural Community Clean Air Day event. This was a way to sort of capitalize on all of the lessons learned and really expand them beyond just those 4 communities. It was on just the Saturday. I can't believe it. It feels like it was forever ago and also like it was last night. And we really worked with stakeholders. There were a couple of business members, a couple of CBOs, and a couple of residents who sat on sort of like a steering committee to help us design the day. And really the day was about learning from community members about sort of the great work that they do outside of 617. What have they been doing in their community for decades and years to engage? And then folks were able to ask, well, how did you get that done? Or what resources did you need to do that? And then we also had a panel of agency folks like myself, folks from CARB, folks from EPA to answer that question, sort of like, well, what are you doing as an agency to help support these efforts? And then we spent the afternoon really hearing, we heard from Dr. Pacheco Warner, who's one of our board members and also a CARB board member, just about her experience in trying to engage community members and their importance in doing some of the research, even the research John mentioned earlier. And then we got a chance to really just connect with one another and sort of exchange best practices and network. I'm going to share a few pictures. You can see here on the left, that is, if that looks like Naimeen Martinez, it's because it is, moderating a panel with some community members in the morning. We also just had some really like beautiful note taking. We hired someone who helped us sort of draw the day and more than just taking like bullet point notes. And then here on the right, I love this picture because it's folks engaging. We had a lot of vendors. We had DPR out there. We had EPA. We had local community-based organizations. We had Steel, the lawnmower folks that provide electric lawnmowers. All of those folks were out here. I like this picture though, because it's youth. We had a lot of youth attend, a lot of really engaged youth who helped us sort of wrap up the summit by describing sort of what they got out of it and really kind of just reinvigorated, I think, a lot of folks, like the reason that they want to engage their community and kind of help be part of the clean air solution. That is the end of my update, but I would love to take questions.
So you talked about the youth just now. That's one of my biggest drivers of why I do what I do. And when I ever get really frustrated and think, okay, it's all terrible, I sit with the youth and it's like, okay, this is why I'm here, is to leave the door open for them, to make the world better for them. So yeah, I love engaging with the youth. My question was regarding events. Do you go to like the Padera Fair, the Big Fresno Fair? Do you go to events like that?
We do. We go to the the big ag summit in Tulare. We go to the fairs. We go to a lot of local, sometimes I think it's in Shafter, they call it First Fridays. We go to like local, like monthly, sometimes weekly, but we don't attend every week, but just like community activities that are happening. And the more we know about them, big things like fairs we're pretty in tune with and we attend. But the more we know about even the smaller community-based things, the more we're able to send our staff out there. It's not 100%, like, you know, we can't be everywhere all at once. In the summer, I think most people also tend to not do as many things outdoors, and we also try not to send our folks to as many things outdoors. And then sort of in the fall, we do spend a little bit more time, speaking of youth, on more like back to school outreach. But that's not to say we can't attend other things, but sometimes back to school nights are a big thing that we'll attend as it relates to outreach for schools at that time of year.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Jessica? Anyone in Bakersfield have questions for Jessica? Seeing none. Richard, Modesto?
No questions in Modesto.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and it's agenda item number 11, district comments.
Again. Couple things. These are actually kind of, big, just, we can kind of save some time for discussion. Just a little bit on EJAG membership. So just as a reminder, so we have an environmental justice strategy that talks about our EJAG membership. At any one time, we would love to have 13 people on our EJAG. 8 of the members are one from each county. And then 2 members shall be, it's described as ethnic small business or minority small business owners. And then the additional 3 members are folks from the CAC. So just kind of an update on kind of where we're at with membership. A few things have changed. One is that we did just take to our board some appointments and reappointments. This was back in March. So reappointments to the EJAG include our chair, Ms. Gutil. We have Thomas Helm, Nayamin Martinez, Derek Williams, and SB Vielma. All of those were reappointed. Each one of those are the at-large representatives for their county. CAC appointments, those are voted on each time those come up every 2 years by the CAC. At their March meeting, they did reappoint Manuel as the Ag Industry Interest Group primary representative, Chris McLaughlin as his alternate representative, and Orchel Cryer as the CAC Group alternate representative as well. So I just wanted to update you on that. A couple of other things, certainly new information. The Merced County at-large representative, Dennis Brazil, has resigned his position. And so we have already opened that and posted it online, as well as continued to post the open seats for the ethnic or minority small business owner positions. So right now we do have 3 vacancies, and we definitely, working with you all, are very eager to fill them. I can just describe really briefly how we've been trying. Obviously the Merced County at-large piece is very, very recently vacant. But in terms of the small business owner seats, that did just close today. Technically, we are going to reopen it because we did not get 2 applicants. We do have 1 person. We're going to review their application, and should they, meet the requirements, then we'll convene once again the appointment subcommittee, which is how we've which is per the bylaws, how we do interview and then recommendations to the governing board to reappoint folks. But also, of course, we do have 2 other vacant seats that we want to continue to reach out for. We have been reaching out in particular for the small business owners, not only to all of you and encouraging folks. I know Nayamin recently made an announcement to some folks in the community at the Community Clean Air Day. We've also reached out to all of the chambers of commerce, including sort of the minority representative chambers of commerce in every single city that, in the Valley that has one that maybe represents like the African American Chamber of Commerce, for example, in one particular city, to try to see if we can just, continue to encourage folks to apply. All that said, we are really, really eager, as I know you all are, to get folks to apply. That way we do have like a robust list, or at least the number that we're trying to fill for the appointment subcommittee then to meet, interview these folks and get them onto the panel or get them onto the committee. Because, and I'll just kind of say this, but we can go back to this discussion. We would also maybe just as a district recommendation propose that the August meeting, we have something we've been talking about as an EJ training and sort of a grounding in sort of the goals and purpose of EJAG. And it would be really great if we could do that if there's already a full membership or at least a handful of new people that we can try to get onto the group. So maybe just, that's my first update. Maybe I can stop and take it through the chair if there's any questions on those updates before I go to my others.
Through the chair, Richard O'Brien. Johnny Garcia from the Latino Community Chamber of Commerce of Stanislaus County, very energetic, is probably having 3 or 4 events each week. He would be happy to help you.
Great. I believe we've met or like directly, but not maybe perhaps with him. And I appreciate that name. And we'll make sure that we can, use that contact.
Tell him I sent him.
Will do. Thank you.
Go ahead, Keith.
Okay. It says here, no geographic restrictions,
Correct.
but you can't bring somebody from Monterey.
Sorry, yeah, to clarify, everyone must reside within the Valley Air District boundaries, which is all of the 8 counties and the Valley, or I guess 7 counties from San Joaquin down through Tulare, Kings, and then the Valley portion of Kern County. But unlike the other at-large representatives, which must represent one from each county, that's what it means when it's no geographic restrictions.
Thank you.
Any questions from Bakersfield? Seeing none, Naeem?
So what is your definition of a small business owner? Because I think everything is in perspective, right? Someone might feel they're small compared to Costco, but so.
Well, there's like in my ag world, it's defined as in monetary or
Yeah, like
personnel-wise.
less than
And you know
50
that.
acres. And I'm like, that's huge. It's
Yeah.
like small for me is 10, right?
Right,
Anyway.
right.
That's a great, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there is a definition of small business. And maybe that's something that could help clarify. Maybe folks, to your point, are self-selecting out because they don't find that they feel like they're a small business, and we can maybe make sure that's something that we can clarify, not only in the posting, but also in our outreach to folks to maybe align with the definition of small business, I believe through like maybe California code. But I'll have to double check that.
How about making the definition not so specifically tight to where, in other words, we have somebody that has a 1 acre of ground and he's in the he's in the farmers markets, and he's in 10 different farmers markets. He's got only 1 acre of ground, but he sells other growers fruit and stuff at the farmers markets. Very busy guy, very, but they may think that they don't qualify as a small business because they only have 1 acre and they're only going to the farmer's market. So maybe something that would be able to unleash an interpretive value of it.
Well, that's why it would be helpful
Broaden it.
to have the definition so that if there's a monetary limit, or if there's a employee amount
Yes.
limit,
But
Those are things that we need.
defined by a county code.
Through the chair, maybe we can go back as sort of an action item, not only to have definitions, but perhaps examples of like,
There you
here are a
go.
couple of types of examples, just to entice folks to feel like they're not self-selecting one way or the other. They don't feel they're too small or too big.
Any other comments or questions?
I just want to react to Jessica's comment about the EJ training or presentation that we have been already mentioning several times. So during the Cleaner Day event, I had an opportunity to have a conversation with Dr. Tanya Pacheco, who is in the Air District Board and the CAR Board, but she's also the director of the Central Valley Policy Health Institute. And she was saying that one of her team members has an EJ curriculum, an EJ presentation. And he was there and we were like, oh, well, that would be great. And Samir thought it was a great idea. So we even have potentially identified who could give it. So
Wonderful.
and he's a local person.
Yeah, through the chair, that's aligned with what we were thinking. It would be a third party outside of the district providing the training. Thank you for that recommendation.
Okay, so then moving on to agenda item number 12, which would be the potential future EJAG meeting agenda items. I think that certainly the training and definitions of what qualifies a potential EJAG member would be helpful. And I always like to hear the community engagement updates. I like those, as it makes sense. Anyone else have any potential EJAG agenda items for future?
That anything on the agenda of his is no more, it's moot or.
Through the chair. Yeah. So Mr. Brazil resigned. I'm sorry, I didn't clarify because we were so focused, I think, on the recruitment of the memberships we've been trying to fill. That also is an open recruitment right now that's posted, and also some outreach we want to do. The definition of at-large member is a little bit different than it maybe not quite as difficult to find because there's not as many stringencies. They just must have experience or interest in representing sort of like the environmental justice communities at large and represent that when they apply. So they just have to also reside in Merced County because this is the Merced County seat we would fill.
I think I was getting it on the 12 agenda item 12 potential future EJAG meeting agenda items. Mr. Brazil wanted to know about the no idle zone at schools.
I see what
Oh,
you're saying.
that's right. That was in the minutes. Okay.
Through the chair, if as time allows, as we set the agenda, maybe that's a timely item as well, given that it will be August and when school starts.
Maybe get it on that one, maybe.
Yep.
Okay.
That sounds good. Any suggestions from Modesto, Richard? Thank you. And in Bakersfield? Seeing none. Also, just to kind of go back a little bit, that we will also have the vice chair election on that agenda as well. Okay. Okay, so this is at this point in time, it is the second opportunity, is agenda item 13, and it's the second opportunity for public comments.
Are there any public comments in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield?
There are no public comments in Fresno or online.
Okay, thank you. And then number 14 is any EJAG member comments. And I'll start with Bakersfield.
I just had a comment. I just wanted to share a story. I was at the last meeting in February, and the very next day I traveled to India, and I was checking the AQI there, and it was pushing 168. So I experienced that type of air quality, and I had to use my inhaler less over there for some weird reason. So it made me wonder what is in our air that causes so much destruction on our lungs. And I think it was about PM10 that they were pushing. They weren't even in the 2.5 range. And it was the strangest thing that I was able to breathe slightly better over there. And then coming back here, all of the problems started again. And the fires really have exacerbated. We have the post fire down in Gorman. And I think that's really exacerbated a lot of our air quality the last couple of weeks. And next month, I'm going and hiking Mount Whitney, which is only 12% oxygen. So I'm really getting an experience about the different types of airs and the different types of, I guess, routes we can go towards trying to reduce those PM numbers. But it's an interesting thing, expansion of my awareness now, being exposed to this language and the science behind it, to be able to actually be a living kind of air quality monitor that can communicate with the public, because here we're not doing much and we're kind of suffering. Some people are more than others, but in other areas where there are no restrictions, there could technically be slightly better air quality, even though the index is lower. So it kind of gives us a little bit more things to think about of what's actually causing, the problems that we have. So just a little comment I wanted to add there.
That is so interesting. You should bring a researcher with you wherever you go.
Yeah, my experience is, as far as air quality goes, just checking the numbers and seeing if I could breathe or not. But I'm interested to see what Mount Whitney has in store up there at 14,500 feet. But that's
Good
all
luck
I
and
had.
be safe up there.
Thank you.
Richard in Modesto, do you have any comments?
No comments in Modesto.
Mr. Graywell, beware of Bigfoot on Mount Whitney.
He might be around there, but I think it's a little too hot for him. Even up
Yeah.
there, it's about 50s.
So in dealing with that comments, that's very, very interesting that you said. Now in India, that was correct. You went to India and you were, with that number, you were able to breathe better. You were wondering why, what was the difference in the content of the air? So it's
I
been.
know they burn quite a bit of, they use patties as their fuel source. A lot of the communities that are not more well off, they tend to use just that. You see stacks and stacks of cow patties, and they use that to cook, to heat their homes. And it's interesting. I was just imagining those particles in the air and wondering why I was able to breathe a little bit better, considering it was like a PM10 situation.
Was it a farm? Is that considered a farming region in India?
Where I was, yeah, most of the farmlands were in Punjab, and my family's village is it's not in a huge city, but it's pretty bustling. But there's a lot of farmland. It's really flat. It's kind of like the Central Valley here. It's just completely flat, and there's a lot of wheat that they grow out there. But there's no restrictions on anything really. I mean, combustible engines, they're just the mode of transportations there are like your cycles and mopeds and things like that. And other than that, there's a lot of random fires. People are just burning things. I've seen people burning plastic. It was quite a culture shock because I hadn't been there in about 17 years. So 2007 is the last time I went. But it's interesting difference of stats there.
Oh, not to change the subject, but off the subject, I just wanted to make a comment that as Mr. Graywell just illustrated, he is a living, walking air pollution indicator now, and his awareness has made him he's gonna get even more. It's gonna get even better. But my comment is more of the on the other side is I've had a chance to be a walking experiment myself and speaking with a lot of trucking companies. And I have one guy in particular who used to feed 5 families. He's a Hispanic man. He fed 5 families. They all had homes, fed their families. He was in the honey business and he was also in the trucking business. He had 6 trucks. And since the new regulations, he has lost all 5 of those 6 trucks. He has only 1 truck left. He feeds only 2 families, and it's kind of a catastrophic situation for him financially and his families and the people that he supported. So I just wanted you to know there's another side to the face of the story of clean air in the valley. And there's some people that are paying an extreme price of losing their business or livelihood, and also losing the capacity and the capability to keep these families going. So I just wanted to make that comment. We have to be aware that we're putting people out of business.
Thank you, Keith. Naomi? Okay. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.